Okay, the mayor of New Jersey has just confirmed the things that we've been hearing coming out of 4chan over the last few days. And not just him, Tim Burchett as well. So the stuff on 4chan broke a few days ago, and the mayor of New Jersey and Tim Burchett have basically come out within the last 24 hours and confirmed it. Now, I want to be clear, this is a separate thread to the one that we went through the other day. We've got a whole new thread that we're going to be going through. We're going to be looking at the footage that backs up the claims in the thread. We're going to be looking at Tim Burchett and the mayor of New Jersey reinforce what we're about to hear. And as we go through the slideshow, I'm going to kind of weave in a whole bunch of things that kind of support the things that we're hearing about, right? So also at the end, I'm going to give you my conclusion and how I'm feeling about all of this, because it's getting murky, right? We're getting these people that seem like a revelation, Jake Barber, Ross Coulthart breaking these amazing stories. And then all of a sudden, the internet is flooded with these kind of opposing opinions trying to discredit each other. So we're going to go through all of that. I'm going to tell you what I think. And at the very end, we're also going to show footage of the things that we're about to hear about today. And if you've been paying attention to Polarity, you will have seen one of these videos I posted about 2 months ago. So if you're new here, welcome. My name's Josh, and I cover all the weird things that are going on in the world because the Earth seems to be transforming into a very strange place at a rapid rate. And for those of you that have been here a little while, if you've been enjoying it, please give the video a like, make sure you subscribe, share it around, all the good stuff. It all really helps us grow. So let's get straight into the slideshow, guys. This is a live show, by the way. That's why you're seeing me fix up the camera right now, because we do it all in one take and it's a lot of fun. So let's kick it off with the first slideshow. So the poster of this thread starts off by saying, I'm LARPing and they can't do much to me now anyway. So if you don't know, a LARP is a live action role play. And what he's basically doing there is he's saying what a lot of people will say on TikTok when they are about to tell a controversial story. It's kind of like, disclaimer, this is just for entertainment purposes only. Same kind of thing. He goes on to say, from 2012 to 2023, I worked in naval intelligence, focusing on advanced underwater detection systems as part of an unidentified submerged phenomena program. Our work involved close collaboration with the DoD and leading defense contractors whose names you can likely guess. Lockheed Martin, etc., etc. We all know. The program's objective was to investigate anomalous underwater activity in specific areas of interest. My recruitment came after earning a PhD in oceanographic engineering, and my role was to analyze sensor data and identify patterns in these phenomena. I'll keep this as concise as possible. By the way, if you can hear any banging, guys, I apologize. We've got a few renovations happening here. I'd like to start by saying the drones we've been seeing aren't US experiments, Chinese tech, or extraterrestrial. The objects we are seeing are from Earth, and while we're not entirely sure what they are, we know where they are coming from. The objects we see emerge from subterranean and submarine exit points. During my time in the USP program, my team analyzed data from nuclear subfleets equipped with next-gen quantum sonar arrays. These tracked objects emerging from and returning to depths far below sub's crush depth, about 2,500 feet. Simply put, their movement defied physics. I'm talking about vertical ascents and descents at 75 to 90 degrees with a constant velocity, no cavitation, and no acoustic signatures. By 2014, we identified consistent emergent points we called threshold points. These weren't random. Clusters of these objects always seemed to emerge in the Puerto Rico Trench off California's continental shelf and the East Pacific Rise. So we'll be getting into a little bit more of that later. And we'll be looking at footage and everything like I said. I do just want to point out though, as you can see, this is dated on the 17th of January. So I just wanted to highlight that so you kind of get an idea of the dates. That's about a week ago at this point, actually. So even before the, the second Antarctic egg broke the other day. But let's keep moving. I will say as well, in contrast to the last 4chan read-through that we did, this person didn't seem to consistently include the question in his replies. But I think I should be able to give you enough context if it's missing. I will also say that I was under a short amount of time to prep today's show. I didn't skip anything. I made sure we got everything. I always will. I will never sacrifice quality. But I will say that I didn't have a chance to fully read through the whole thread. I read through the start, and that's how I saw that all this stuff matches. But after that, we're kind of going to be reading through this together for the first time. So it should be interesting. Let's continue. The object's physical properties are quite honestly terrifying, as they can physically alter their structure and manipulate electromagnetic fields to mimic real aircraft, replicating their shape, motion, and reflective properties. However, our quantum sonar arrays consistently reveal their true unchanging forms, suggesting the transformation is either superficial or operates by mechanisms that we don't understand. You wouldn't believe how much activity has ramped up over the past 2 years. By mid-2023, the whole situation got so tense that my access to key data was locked down almost overnight. It wasn't subtle. My higher-ups were clearly scared. Everything became need to know, and apparently I didn't need to know anymore. When they started pulling senior analysts from the program and stonewalling me from anything remotely relevant, it was obvious the walls were closing in. That's when I decided it was time to leave. The recent wave of whistleblowers you'll be seeing and incidents like the Cybertruck bomber are controlled disclosure. It's all part of a calculated effort to muddy the waters and keep people chasing shadows while something much bigger is unfolding. So there you go. You kind of get an idea of what's going on here. He's basically claiming that the drones, these UAPs and these USOs are all it's all the same thing. They're the transmedium, the characteristics that we often hear about as part of the 5 observables. And he's saying that these things that we are seeing are originating from deep, deep in the ocean, depths below crush depth, so in places that we can't even physically get to, and that they're ascending at like a rapid vertical rate, something that we can't do, and they are then continuing that out of the water over to New Jersey and surrounding areas, and literally morphing in front of our eyes into planes or objects that mimic normal aircraft that we see in the sky. And we have footage of that, and we'll be showing it. So what he's also saying here is that the way they've identified it is with these new quantum sonars, they're actually picking up the electromagnetic field of the object rather than like a sonar ping of the object being there. So they're kind of seeing it in a different way. And when they see it in that way, even after it's morphed into an aircraft or whatever, it's still showing up as the exact same thing on their radar. Like the radar is revealing the true thing. So on the radar, it's still an orb, despite, it looks like an orb at the bottom all the way up, and then it transforms and they can see it looks like a plane, but on their new quantum sonar radars, they can see it's actually still an orb, or at least the magnetic field around it looks like that. So again, just trying to give you guys a little bit of context there. Now let's look at the media who are kind of backing up these kind of claims. The first one we're going to look at is Tim Burchett, and then we'll go on to the mayor of New Jersey.
It does seem a lot of these UAP sightings are over water. Do you think there's anything to that and the basing concepts that you were laying out?
I do. When I've talked to people, or their sonar people, and the way they hide it from us, Matt, they say it's because our sonar, I believe, I haven't been briefed on this, I'm just from what I'm putting together, but we have some secret sonar. But what's so crazy about it, like we're hiding it from the Chinese. Well, heck, Matt, the Chinese sold us the components for it. They know it's in our sonar, probably better than we do. But when they tell me something's moving at hundreds of miles an hour underwater, and our capabilities are, I don't think we have anything to do 40 miles an hour. And these things, this one was large as a football field underwater. And this was a documented case. And I have an admiral telling me this stuff. And it just, to me, yeah,
so that's where you think the bases are, is underwater then, because of those reports?
I do. I just think traveling light years, I think it happens. I think it's possible. The vastness of God's great universe. I mean, light years, the light from those stars that we see at night left there before the time of Christ. I mean, the vastness of God's great universe is unreal. Yeah. And I'm not worried about them harming me. I mean, if they, with that capabilities, they would have barbecued us a long time ago, brother.
So there you go. Sorry, I didn't realize I didn't have my headphones on when we got started, but we're locked in now. So that was Tim Burchett. He's the representative of Tennessee. I think I've got that right, but also like a key figure in this whole UFO disclosure thing. He's been present at both of the congressional hearings, and the admiral that he's referring to there is more than likely Tim Gallaudet, who testified about that at the last hearing. So he testified about large objects moving at just insane speeds underwater, well beyond our capabilities. And that's stretching as far back as like the 70s and 80s. So even when the technology was worse, we were still seeing the same things. Now let's hear from the New Jersey Mayor Michael Melham.
recently been watching and spent some time with the videographer out of Long Island. I mean, he has orbs, these glowing orbs of light on camera that as you watch them right before your eyes, they seem to transform into a mechanical drone. So I've actually watched it myself where these orbs are glowing balls of light, different blinking lights all over the place. And as it gets closer to you, you actually see it transform into a drone. Whether it's a drone from the beginning and it's being obstructed by bright light, I can't tell you, but it is cause for concern. We have looked at flight tracker data. We don't see any airplanes in the skies. These things are absolutely some kind of phenomenon that's happening just over our homes. We need answers and we need them quickly.
Yeah, that's so important to note that, you are looking at flight tracker data and not seeing records of this. So, Mayor, are you confident that we will start to get some definitive answers, whatever those answers may be?
I believe we're going to get answers. Calls for speculation as to whether they're going to be definitive answers or not. Yeah. I do take the president at his word. I do think that we are going to get some kind of disclosure. I've listened to government speak. I've listened to our state, New Jersey, speak. I've listened to the federal government speak, and they've been very specific at times. They've said things like, it's not our DOD, it's not our Homeland Security. And I've learned, in being in this business for a while, that when government speaks very specifically, listen to what they're not saying. So when they say it's not DOD and it's not Homeland Security, they're not saying it's not a private contractor. They're not saying a lot of different things there. So they're giving themselves some plausible deniability when they say things specifically like that.
So there you go. There's the New Jersey mayor saying that he has seen them with his own eyes morph out of these orbs into these craft. And I'm going to show you the footage of that. We've got 3 videos to look at the end. So there you go. Now you're kind of seeing that these videos, which surfaced in like the last 24 hours, are backing up something that appeared on 4chan a week ago. Now, in the last read through, I said 4chan is the most degenerate and stinky part of the internet, which it is, but also it is also the birthplace of a lot of things that have come out, memes, things that we kind of have in general internet lore. A lot of it does come from 4chan, despite being an absolute cesspit of degeneracy. So let's continue. Now that you've got a little bit of supporting evidence, let's continue with what we're about to hear. Okay. These objects aren't extraterrestrial, and they're not some top military tech. Our theory is that they've been here far longer than we have, and whatever they're doing, it's ramping up fast. Our final pattern analysis before the data lockdown showed an exponential increase in emergence events. The trend wasn't just alarming, it pointed toward a critical threshold. Also, we're entirely certain that they aren't just buzzing around aimlessly. They're systematically mapping and surveying infrastructure, military installations, population hubs. They're covering everything, and they're doing it while blending in perfectly. They could look like a drone, an airliner, or who knows what else, but under the surface, there's something entirely different. Did your office work with the NOAA during all of this? Yes, we had an ongoing collaborations with the PMEL, particularly their ocean exploration programs. They provided data and environmental monitoring that helped us establish baseline acoustic signatures to filter out natural phenomena. They were a pain in the ass. Any activity near Karlat Yam? If you're referring to Kiryat Yam, I'm not sure about the spelling you used. We didn't have direct monitoring stations in the Mediterranean. At least I was never aware of these and only focused on the areas I already mentioned. The Mediterranean's average depth of around 1,500 meters doesn't provide the conditions we typically associate with threshold points. If Euros and Africans see these objects, it's because they went from the Atlantic threshold points, particularly from the Puerto Rico trench vector, and moved eastward across the ocean. What were the true forms that you saw on the sonar? We consistently observed 2 configurations. The most common was an oblong spheroid, exactly like the tic-tac shape, that gets thrown around a lot. The other form was perfectly spherical, usually 5 to 8 meters in diameter. Regardless of what they appeared to be visually, drones, aircraft, etc., the quantum acoustic signatures always showed one of these 2 base forms. The sphere configuration was more common during deep water operations, while the tic-tac shape was prevalent during the surface-to-air transitions. Interesting. So he's kind of saying tic-tacs and spheres, that's what they are. That's what they look like when they're looking at the electromagnetic spectrum. But visually, they can look like anything, as well as the base tic-tac and sphere form. And just a little tidbit, what else is interesting is that you could almost kind of say that an egg is almost like the halfway point And if these objects can morph, you could almost say that like between a tic tac and a sphere, you're probably going to get like an egg looking shape at some point. Just something I thought worth mentioning. Any biological effects reported near the exit points, changes in sea life behavior. Marine life doesn't notice these things. Our bio team used to joke about this. It's pretty wild when you think about it. Even our quietest subs sent marine life scattering, but these objects might as well be part of the coral. Interesting. I gave the general timeline, my role and my background. The locations and tech specs I mentioned are verifiable by anyone with proper knowledge. I'd suggest looking at the public NOAA bathymetric data for the threshold points I mentioned. Pay attention to anomalous readings around the Puerto Rico Trench's western slope, particularly between 2020 and 2022. The data's public. They just don't advertise what they're actually recording. I'm not going to dox myself further or drop specific details that could identify people close to me. This is a LARP. So again, he's saying this is just for entertainment. It's just a coincidence. Someone asked, summer 2015, Puerto Rico shelf emergence of small fast unit that flew over the East United States. So he's referring to that picture there, which is the Go Fast video, which is one of the 3 videos released by the Pentagon in 2017. He says, this very much tracks. The Pentagon videos they confirmed in 2020, it was 2017, but okay, were from that 2014 to 2015 activity spike. It was cool seeing them finally acknowledge footage we'd been analyzing years before. The release of those videos sparked huge internal fights. You had some officials pushing for disclosure, other branches fighting to keep everything classified, and some just freelancing their own agenda. My team thought we were finally getting somewhere, but instead it just exposed how fractured the whole system is. Different officers either fighting over control or actively undermining each other. We are cooked. Any idea why they are putting small devices into people? The implant phenomenon is real. Never heard of anyone talk about this. I always find it interesting when these threads appear and the original posters aren't afraid to kind of say, I don't know, or say that wasn't my area. Yeah. I mean, again, it could be someone playing 4D chess and knowing that if they had answers for everything, it could seem unreal. But, you know, my intuition tells me that at least some of this is truth. There's no evidence to suggest they aren't from our planet, but you're not entirely wrong. These objects show specific interest in our infrastructure and population centers. We're certain they're mapping human activity specifically and not just general planetary resources. What's going on in New Jersey is unprecedented. Everything else is pure speculation. Do you think it could be related to the Earth's pole shift? No. The Earth's magnetic pole shift is like a very slow-moving compass needle. We actually studied this possibility extensively because the objects we tracked could manipulate electromagnetic fields. Imagine you're watching birds migrate. If they were following Earth's magnetic field, like actual birds do, you'd see gradual changes in their patterns matching the pole's movement. But these objects followed completely different rules. They created their own magnetic disturbance, kind of like how a magnet can temporarily override your compass. Now that's kind of interesting because obviously there's this connection with UAP, specifically these orbs and even the drones, with nuclear weapons and nuclear sites, and just a general concern with nuclear overall. It's well documented all throughout our history. Obviously, Captain Bob Salas in 1967 at Malmstrom Air Force Base is one of the most famous cases, but there are many more. It's interesting that he's talking about how they obviously generate their own electromagnetic field and they kind of seem to run on their own. The detonation of a nuclear weapon and it extremely disrupts and distorts the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. So it obviously has an effect on it somehow. Now, look, I'm not a professor or a scientist. I'm not going to act like I know all of this in depth. But I do know enough to know that nuclear weapons completely fracture electromagnetic fields. And if that's how these things are kind of operating and that's kind of, you know, the medium that they move through, I could understand why they're concerned about nuclear weapons. It kind of makes sense, right? Let's go to the next one. Oh, and there we are. Someone says, why the fuck would these things even care about us now if they're some ancient Earth species? Probably because we're blowing everything up. He says, our theory was that they're tired of us fucking with their shit. Quite honestly, we always assumed they're peaceful, or else humanity wouldn't have thrived for this long. However, we've basically industrialized every corner of their native environment. Deep sea mining, submarine cables, sonar networks, oil rigs. We're literally building infrastructure right on top of their threshold points. Plus, our self-destructive behavior, nukes, puts them at high risk. That's why there's been so much more activity in the last 80 years. What's the point of mimicking planes? They clearly don't want direct interaction with us, and the mimicking seems to be an evasion tactic. Numbers. By late 2022, we had around 40 emergencies per month. Back in 2014, only 10 to 20. But the worst part wasn't the numbers. It was seeing multiple threshold points activate at once, which had never happened before. Last projection before I lost access showed 100 monthly events by the end of 2023. Given what's happening now, especially in New Jersey, we're probably looking at 10 plus events daily, way beyond anything we modeled. Did any other nations track this shit? Of course, that's actually part of why keeping this contained is impossible. Russian deep sea research vessels were all over the East Pacific rise threshold points. They have better deep water capabilities than most people realize. The Chinese aren't dumb to this either. The funny part is we'd occasionally get sanitized intelligence reports of them tracking the exact same phenomena, but everyone played dumb in international waters. Picture these three countries all following the same objects while pretending they're just doing routine patrols. It's ridiculous. The Chinese especially ramped up their deep sea monitoring after 2019. Look up their underwater sensor network expansion. Go your hardest on that one, guys. I haven't had time to check that out. But that's funny, right? You know, so everyone's kind of trying to work out what's going on in their own private way. And it's like you all kind of converge on this one point, on this underwater orb. And then all of a sudden you've got the Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing at each other like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Nothing. I'm just patrolling. Yeah, I'm just patrolling here too. It's funny, right? Okay, next one. When is the critical threshold? If you're asking for a specific date, I can't give you one. That's not how it works. Our models showed emergence events increasing exponentially, but we lost access to the data before pinpointing when it could peak, and that prediction could be incorrect. What I can tell you is that the rate of increase we are seeing by mid-2023 was well beyond our worst-case projections from 2019. Think of it like watching a pot about to boil. You can see the bubbles forming faster and faster, but you can't predict the exact moment it'll boil over. All I know is we're seeing way more activity now than any of our models predicted we would, and nobody knows their end goal. Jake Barber whistleblowing. Lol LMAO even. Good to see people are still falling for the News Nation, Coulthard, Greer, etc. grifts. Give them ratings and drop forget to like and subscribe to their YouTube channels and buy all their books. So here we go. This is where this starts to get a little bit murky because again, all the people that we're championing and who we really believe in, specifically Ross Coulthard, is getting thrown in the mud. So I won't go too far into it, but we'll talk about that at the end. In all the data we collected, there wasn't a single aggressive action. They're capable of incredible things, but they've never shown hostile intent. If they wanted violence, we wouldn't stand a chance. Something that can alter their structure, manipulate electromagnetic fields, and move through water like it's air would be done in hours. What we observed was more like a territorial behavior, like they're responding to us encroaching on their space. They're aware of our nuclear capabilities. That's probably humanity's only real deterrent. I guess they understand that any overt action risks a nuclear response from us. That would poison their environment as much as ours, but that's just my analysis based on the data. I'm not going to pretend I know their intentions. Threshold points aren't physical structures or holes. That's what made them hard to study. They're more like zones where normal physics starts acting up. UUVs could get within underwater unidentified vehicles. I don't know. That's just a guess. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. UUVs could get within the 600 meters before their navigation systems would start going haywire. Okay, it's obviously not unidentified. Underwater unmanned vehicles. I'm going to go with that. Compasses spinning, depth sensors showing impossible readings, that sort of thing. Lost quite a few Remus units trying to get closer. The best imagery we got was from a multi-beam sonar mapping. You'd see these perfectly circular areas, maybe 50 meters in diameter, where the return signals just didn't make sense. Like the bathymetry would show normal seafloor topology, then this completely smooth disk where all our instruments failed to get coherent readings, almost like a blind spot in the data. Who do you find to be the most credible and genuine? Most of them are working with fragments of information, and some are definitely spinning narratives for profit or attention. The ones talking about bodies, exotic materials, and crash retrievals are missing the point entirely. These things don't crash, there are no retrievals. Interesting. It's interesting how he says also that like most of them are working with fragments of information. But you would have to assume, and I think by this guy's own admission, he is also working with fragments of information. He is working with the oceanographic side of things. And I'm sure, you know, I've said before, like there is likely more than one race here. There's likely more than one intelligence that's interacting with this planet. I don't, you know, if we're going to accept that UFOs and aliens are real, if we're going to break that door down, then I think the fact that there's probably more than one is like an easy second step to take, right? I think that's a given. So I think we could say that, you know, this person is potentially working with whatever it is that's coming out of the ocean and into the skies, but that's not the only part. That's not the whole phenomenon, right? There is likely much more to it, and this is just a fragment that he's working on. And so I hate it when people come out and call other people liars when it's like, you know, there can be truth from two different perspectives. Like you can both be telling the truth. Just because, you know, you don't know everything that Jake Barber knows and he doesn't know everything you know, that doesn't mean one of you is lying. You both just might be looking at the same phenomena from completely different perspectives. Therefore, the intelligence that you're gathering is going to look slightly different. But if you maybe switch perspectives, you would both be able to be like, oh, now I see how these dots connect. So I really don't like when people just have the arrogance to be like, he's a liar, he's a grifter. It's like, brother, get over yourself. Get some perspective, all right? You're only a human. Next one. What if they can also mimic humans and other things? One of our techs actually had this running joke about our branch director being one of them, because the guy never seemed to blink and had a weird way of moving. Look, one thing I wanted to point out about the Jake Barber story is he doesn't blink. It's something I thought I was going to mention it, and I think I just forgot. But I don't know. And that could be nothing. I mean, he's a special forces guy. Maybe he's literally seen so much shit in his life. He's had so much shock that he's just permanently like, holy fuck. But he could also be an alien. He could also not be an alien, and that is complete garbage. But, you know, it's worth mentioning. We never saw any evidence they could mimic anything except aircraft. Not saying they couldn't do different things. They probably can. But signatures were always consistent with those two forms I mentioned, the sphere and tic-tac shapes. Again, fragments of info are out there. So is the reality of what's happening. It's right in front of everyone. People just keep looking for aliens when they should be looking elsewhere. That's all. A video that I've showed on my channel, not on YouTube, I think on my TikTok, by ex-Commander Sergeant Robert Dean, who held a Above Majestic. No, that's a documentary. It had Majestic in the name. It wasn't Majestic 12. It was like, it might have been Above Majestic. I don't know. He had a very high clearance. And he claims that they are in the White House, and they have infiltrated the government. And it's not just him. Like, that is a theory that's been floating around. And to be honest, if we wonder, like, where is this resistance for truth? What is stopping these people coming out and telling us? Why are these people at the highest levels so scared to tell us the truth? And it's maybe because there is something that is beyond human pulling the strings, and they kind of have the fear of God in them. Not saying that these aliens are God, but like the fear of some kind of higher, way more powerful entity being able to control them or punish them or whatever. You know what I'm saying? If you saw the data we saw, by the way, I keep swapping between data and data. I don't know why. I don't even know what I normally say, but we're just going to keep rolling with it. If you saw the data we saw, the feeling of dread would be in your head 24/7, but eventually you just learn to live with this reality. There's not much we can do. Whether other phenomena exist alongside what I saw is outside my area of expertise, but I personally doubt it. Okay, so he's basically replying to what I just said. Whether other phenomena exist alongside what I saw is outside my area, but I personally doubt it. I mean, look, everyone's different. But to witness what this person is witnessing and then be like, and he's openly saying how mind-blowing this is, how, hard to believe this is, to then be like, yeah, but I doubt there's anything else. This is crazy. This is beyond anything I've ever seen. It's completely, beyond human. But that's it. That would be about it. That's where it stops. I'm sure of it. Like, can you see how that's a bit weird? Hey, that's just my opinion. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Now, I don't have the context theory for this next one, but I'll just read you what he said. He said, I've never heard of such a theory. The objects we tracked were solid, structured craft with forms under quantum sonar. As for humanoid entities, I never saw evidence of that. The objects showed signs of intelligence in their behavior patterns, but we never got close enough to determine who or what was operating them. Speculation about their true nature was heavily discouraged in the program. Our team joked about it here and there, but never around the higher-ups. We did our job, and that was it. I will remain within what I can verify through the program's data and what I saw. Remote viewing insights are interesting, but my focus was on hard sensor data and verifiable patterns. I'm unaware of further details. So again, you've got this guy putting his hand up saying, hey, that wasn't my area. I'm not going to try and speculate on things that I don't know about. But at the same time, he's like, but Jake Barber is a liar. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit like, you're not Jake Barber. You didn't work with him. That's not your area, but you're very confident to say that he's a liar. So, let's just remember these things. Let's just remember these things. We'll keep going. I'm not dismissive. I'm just telling you well, you are dismissive of Jake Barber and Ross Coulthard, but that's okay. We'll keep going. I'm just telling you what I saw and researched for years. I cannot and will not confirm or deny things that I'm unsure about. I'll only tell you my side of the story and conclusions or theories that my team and I reached or considered. The Bet sphere never came up in any serious discussion in our program. Foo Fighters, quite relevant. Our analysis of historical documentation of World War II pilots combined with our modern data and understanding of objects suggests they were encountering early examples of the same mimicry behavior. I stand on the data I saw. It'd be cool to say they are interdimensional demons or grey aliens from Neptune, but I don't know. We can't determine who's constructing them, and labeling them is useless. All I can say with honesty is the sophistication of the objects implies an advanced tech civilization, but I've heard all types of theories from time travel to super AI, but again, theorizing their origin wasn't my objective, and we'd get in trouble if we delved too deep into that. There are no indications for extraterrestrials. These things are not leaving Earth. So again, he's saying things that make sense. And I agree with the fact that, these things have been here for a long time. Foo Fighters are a classic example, something that we've talked about on this channel a lot. If you happen to not know what the Foo Fighters are, they are basically orbs that were seen throughout World War II to be following the World War II planes, which is a very shit photo of that you can see there. Now, and that's also where the band got their name from. So the idea of orbs in the sky that we can't explain has been around a lot longer than you probably realize if you're new to this topic. The quantum sonar arrays were developed in partnership with a couple of major defense contractors. Traditional sonar relies on acoustic reflection. These arrays were different in the sense that they combined advanced quantum sensing capabilities with traditional sonar to detect disturbances in both acoustic and electromagnetic fields simultaneously. The key advantage was their ability to detect objects even when they exhibit no conventional acoustic signature or cavitation. When these objects mimicked aircraft, they could potentially replicate visual appearance and radar signatures, but the quantum arrays still showed their true forms because the arrays detected disturbances in the quantum properties of the water itself that couldn't be masked. Think of it like an MRI, seeing through skin to reveal bone structure. No matter what these objects appeared to be visually, the arrays consistently showed their base form. That's how we were able to track them from the emergence points at crush depth all the way to the surface, even when they exhibited impossible movement patterns with no acoustic signature. They demonstrated mastery over pressure differentials and electromagnetic fields in ways that suggest advanced technology, not interdimensional phasing. When they altered their form to mimic aircraft, the base structure remained unchanged in our quantum acoustic readings. This suggests technological camouflage rather than any kind of dimensional shifting or organic transformation. In my opinion, all the data pointed to advanced engineering, not supernatural or biological phenomena, but there were people in the project who believed the latter. Very interesting. Someone said, "Where can I get one of those sick badges next to my name like those awesome people in the comments?" And he said, "Those badges are for members of the Polarity channel. For $5 a month, you can support the channel, gain access to extra members-only content, as well as your name at the end of every video. The coolest part is the badge is military-inspired, and over time, you'll rank up and your badge will change. You gain stars and other elements to display your long-standing allegiance to the Polarity family and being a complete weirdo." Interesting. I might have to check that out after the video. "I understand the skepticism and some anons wanting more from me, but let me break down exactly what we confirmed through the sensor data and documentation during my time in the program. Two consistent physical forms for these objects, the Tic Tac and the perfect sphere, that remained unchanged regardless of visual appearance. Emergence patterns from specific depth zones sharing identical electromagnetic signatures. Movement capabilities that violated known physics. Zero aggressive actions documented. Marine life shows no reaction to their presence. We identified systematic coverage of military installations, critical infrastructure, and population centers. Perfect mimicry of conventional aircraft while maintaining their base quantum acoustic signature. Exponential increase in emergence frequency from around 15 months in 2014 to 40 plus months by late 2022. This is what I can 100% confirm. The rest is speculation, theories, and/or my opinions." So again there, he's kind of confirming that, whether he realizes it or not, that he is saying that what he's saying about Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart is speculation and his opinion or theory. And again, we'll get to more of that later. Here's one that was popular. So this person asked, like, can you tell us something new, something extra, or something like that? Here's one that was popular among a couple of our guys. The object's quantum signatures showed what we called temporal inversions. Essentially, our arrays would detect their signature milliseconds before the objects actually appeared. At first, we assumed this was an equipment error, but it was consistent across different arrays and threshold points. Due to this, some believed the objects were just moving through space. Weren't just moving through space, but time. The threshold points weren't just spatial coordinates, they were temporal nodes of sorts. This would explain why they could move without cavitation, their perfect predictive movements, why marine life never reacted, and the exponential increase in activity. We're seeing the same objects multiple times as temporal loops multiply. They could be cataloging changes between different time periods. Each emergence event was basically a temporal snapshot of human civilization. So that's obviously quite a mind-melting comment, and I'm not going to pretend like I fully grasp it, but he's obviously talking about the realm of time travel there, and that these are potentially intertemporal or extratemporal, and that they're not just defying physics, but they're also defying time as we understand it. The Hudson Valley isn't comparable to our confirmed threshold points. The deepest parts of the Hudson River Valley and surrounding continental shelf only reach about 100 to 200 meters. The threshold points we monitored consistently occurred in zones between 3,000 and 4,000 meters deep. The Hudson Valley area simply doesn't have the depth conditions we associated with emergence events. Even the deepest parts of the New York Bight only reach about 2,000 meters. The non-ET determination comes from quantum acoustic analysis. The objects show specific adaptation to the Earth's deep ocean physics. They utilize pressure differentials and water density gradients in ways that wouldn't make sense for craft designed for space travel. It's like finding a submarine with gills. The engineering was clearly made for our oceans. The critical threshold isn't mystical. It's basic mathematical modeling. When you plot emergences over time, you get an exponential curve. Example, in 2014, there was an average of 15 events per month. 2018, an average of 25 events per month. 2022, an average of 40 events per month, and the last projection was trending towards 100 events per month. This is verifiable data from our sensory arrays, not speculation. As for mapping behavior, we're not reading minds, we're doing pattern analysis. Example, object emerges from Puerto Rico Trench, follows precise grid pattern over the Norfolk Naval Base, hovers at consistent intervals, maintains exact distance from key facilities, repeats pattern weekly with 99.7% consistency. Multiply this by hundreds of tracked events over a decade. When you overlay their movement patterns with infrastructure maps, the correlation coefficient is astronomical. This isn't interpretation, it's statistical analysis. The conclusions follow the evidence. And, some of this stuff is hard to argue with. Like, you listen to the way this guy talks, he seems very rooted in the data, in fact, in evidence, and just the way that he's speaking, in my opinion, is extremely compelling. Did we try to communicate or fight those things? Our military has encounters with them fairly regularly. The Pentagon videos just happen to be the ones that went public, but there's an extensive catalog of footage, video, images, audio, sonar, thermal, radar, etc. that will never go public, at least not yet. What's interesting is that some footage online is actually legitimate. You know how one of the Pentagon videos that was confirmed to be legit had been floating around on a UFO forum since 2007. Yeah, there's a lot of real stuff already online. Don't get me wrong. Most videos and images are bullshit. I've seen a lot of footage that shows what I would consider similar base configurations and movement patterns we tracked, especially since New Jersey got hot. The really compelling stuff never leaves secure facilities for the most part. Also, as far as I'm aware, we never had any successful two-way communication or controlled interaction. Now, just quickly, again, I know this person has made a lot of claims. He's also then said, this is the data, everything else is my speculation. But for someone who's obviously quite deep in the military, deep in these programs, should understand the intense compartmentalization of such a highly covered up topic, I find it strange that he would be like, as far as I'm aware, we've never had any successful two-way communication or controlled interaction. It's like, brother, you just look at the ocean. Like, you don't need to know if they've had a two-way. They're not. The aliens aren't talking to the oceanographers, okay? They're not talking to you. So I think it's a little bit bold to assume you even think you would know. You do not have a need to know if there is this kind of interaction happening. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. How much does Congress know? Based on the internal fights that I witnessed, different committees probably have different pieces of information. Yeah, and you're probably an example of this. The recent public hearings barely scratched the surface. I would agree with that. I think a lot of you would too. Any advice for the general population? Keep calm. We can't stop whatever is coming, so there's no point in panicking. Do not live in fear. Just to be clear, we tracked spheres, not cubes. We never saw a cube. Oblong spheroid, the tic-tac shape, and the perfect sphere, typically 5 to 8 meters in diameter, were their true form. Any other shapes people report seeing could likely be the result of their mimicry capabilities or simply an incorrect depiction of the sighting. As far as I can tell, no, I have no information about an actual manufacturing facility. The threshold points that we monitored weren't structured bases, they were areas of localized physical anomalies. The quantum sonar arrays would detect a buildup of activity before emergence events. First, we'd see localized magnetic anomalies forming in these zones. Then the seafloor topology would start showing the characteristic smoothing effect in a perfect circle. The electromagnetic disturbances would gradually intensify over several hours or even days until they reached what we called a resonance point. When an object emerged, it didn't just appear. The arrays would detect it rising through different pressure gradients, maintaining constant velocity despite the crushing depths. Again, no cavitation, no acoustic signature, just smooth transition through the water column. The threshold points would remain active for varying periods, sometimes single emergences, other time multiple objects would use the same point over several hours before the zone would return to normal. By 2022, we were seeing multiple threshold points activating simultaneously, which had never happened in the program's earlier years. He's obviously referring now to what's broke recently. An egg is pretty close to a sphere, I guess, lol. joking aside, anything Coulthard touches on is bullshit. For the record, again, we never once in over 10 years detected a crash or malfunction. They don't crash. There are no crash retrievals, period. Again, I'm a broken record, but this guy is, you know, when we talk about crash retrievals, I mean, there definitely could be crash retrievals, and we have heard of that happening within the ocean. But most of it is on land. And this guy's an oceanographer. So only a few comments ago, you said you wouldn't speak about things that were outside of your area. Well, you're doing that now. Now, just up here, for any of you who don't know, he says, as far as I can tell, no, I have no information about an actual manufacturing facility. Now, what he is referring to there is a older, pretty famous 4chan thread from about 2 years ago of someone who spoke about a very similar to this guy, very similar style, very similar writing style. Maybe it's the same guy. I doubt it. Saying that they had identified a large manufacturing facility that seemed to move around within the Bermuda Triangle, and that it seemed to be like controlled by an AI, and that when anything would approach it in an aggressive manner, that it would be like vaporized instantly. And I think he even gave an account of like someone trying to approach it, and before the person could even like communicate over their mic, they were just gone. But it's said that like when ships and planes have like routine flyovers and are in the area in a normal sense, there's no issue. But when a plane or a boat kind of makes like an unexpected turn around it, it reacts. So there's that. And obviously, yes, that's in the Bermuda Triangle, the place where we've known that things have disappeared for many, many years. Now, what I wanted to show you is a clip of Danny Sheehan in October 2024. This is something I put on my TikTok many, many months ago. If you don't know who Danny Sheehan is, I'll just let you know quickly. He's a constitutional and public interest lawyer. He's been saying this since last year. This is October 2024. He's seen the Project Blue Book files. He's been in a lot of high level cases, not just around the UAP topic, but also like JFK, many other things in America. So he's in places to know people, and he's been involved in things. So check out this video.
Bases here on our planet, many of which are located high in the desolate areas in the mountains, where very few people ever go, and beneath the sea. There's a major base in the Pacific that we're virtually certain exists off Baja, between Baja and Guadalupe Island, potentially beneath the ocean floor. This has been monitored. We have hundreds of videos of the vehicles coming and going from that location and plunging into the sea and going down into and coming from this base. This is extraordinarily important for everyone to understand. Very importantly, there is some percentage inside our national security state apparatus that knows this to be true.
So there you go. Danny Sheehan basically echoing what's in this 4chan thread and things that we have kind of heard about and known about in the UAP space for a long time. You can see there, that's Guadalupe Island, just off the coast of Baja, California, not far away from where the USS Nimitz Tic Tac encounter took place. A little further up, you've got Catalina Island, another massive UFO hotspot. And then, of course, one of the least spoken about interesting cases of lights in the sky was the Battle of LA in 1942, where during the war, the air raid sirens sounded through LA. Everyone was forced into their homes. There was just like a barrage and array of anti-aircraft fire up into the sky at these objects, because obviously back then they thought it was, you know, people coming to bomb the city. And these lights just stayed in the sky as this barrage of bullets went up for, you know, an extended amount of time. And the story is kind of unclear. It's such a long time ago, and a lot of the witnesses were in their homes because of the air raid sirens. But the story kind of goes that after they just barraged this with bullets for an extended period of time, it just slowly kind of floated away. And that's the Battle of LA. Now, that's a slide from one of my older videos, the Hopi Prophecy. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's a bit of an older one, but, you know, you might find some good stuff in there. So let's get back to the thread. By the way, obviously the Bermuda Triangle is on the other side, right? Let me just go over that quickly. Obviously the Bermuda Triangle, and we're going to look into this a little bit more in a minute, is on the other side of the country. on the other ocean. So it's interesting how people are like, well, why does this only happen in America? Why is this always around America? Well, it's because you're surrounded by aliens. Okay? Let's keep going. There's no conflict here, but let me clarify the distinction. When I said they don't follow Earth's magnetic field, I meant they don't passively track the pole movement like migrating animals do. Instead, our sonar data shows they actively manipulate and generate their own magnetic fields. But this manipulation requires Earth's magnetic field as a fundamental medium to work with, like how a jet engine needs an atmospheric air to generate thrust. But it's constrained to follow wind patterns. The objects can move freely against our Earth's magnetic field lines, but they still need the base field to interact with. That's why we believe they can't leave Earth's magnetosphere, not because they follow the field, but because they need it as a medium for their propulsion system to function. The quantum arrays showed their technology is specifically adapted to work within Earth's electromagnetic environment, even though they're not bound by its natural patterns. And but oh my God, like this all makes sense, right? Like he said, if these things generate their own magnetic field, and that's how they're able to move, because the Earth has the natural magnetic field, which we know, that's how birds kind of have their own GPS and know where they're going. And they generate their own magnetic field. And what happens when you put like two opposing magnets against each other? They push against each other, or they levitate. They look like they're kind of levitating. So these things are able to generate that, use it against the Earth's magnetic field, and just levitate and move wherever they want to go. So they're not flying, they're using magnets, essentially, their own magnets versus the Earth magnet, and moving that way. And remember, when nuclear weapons are detonated, we completely rupture and fracture and destroy the Earth's magnetic field, which they use to move. Okay, I just solved it. I just solved the UFO phenomenon. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, those dots are wild, right? Don't tell me those dots don't connect. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll keep going. I got excited there. Here we are. Maybe. I'm not too sure what that was too. Based on our analysis, the physics involved suggests a theoretical possibility of large-scale field displacement. The arrays detected what we called quantum field bubbles around these objects. So basically, zones where conventional physics temporarily cease to function, similar to the threshold points but somewhat mobile. In theory, an object generating these effects could extend the field to encompass a larger volume. The quantum acoustic signatures we measured during actual aircraft encounters showed momentary phase matching between the object and aircraft's electromagnetic profiles. By early 2022, we were seeing synchronized effects across multiple sites. Theoretically, this same mechanism could create a mobile threshold point around an aircraft, essentially treating it as an emergence event in reverse. Hope the explanation makes sense. This is pure speculation based on our sensor data, but the physics suggests it's possible. Okay, I just want to look at that again, right? Based on our analysis, the physics, because I think this could be explaining something kind of freaky. Based on our analysis, the physics involved suggests a theoretical possibility of large-scale field displacement. The arrays detected what we called quantum field bubbles around these objects. So basically zones where conventional physics cease to function, similar to the threshold points, but somewhat mobile. In theory, an object generating these effects could extend the field to encompass a larger volume. The quantum acoustic signatures we measured during the actual aircraft encounters showed momentary... Okay. I just want to show you something that this sounds like, and you may know what I'm about to show you right now. And I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to try and find the video as quick as I can, because this kind of sounds really wild. I'm sorry, I didn't expect to bring this in, and look, people are going to hate me for this. There are people out there who are going to be really upset, but is what he has just explained there, this? Oh my God, hang on. I'm getting there, I swear to God. Why can't I drag it from here? Okay, there we go. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about the Mh370 videos. I'm just going to show this one. look, I know people are really upset already. It's wild. When you even mention this, that this could be real on Twitter, it's so crazy. You get like a brigade of people that always pop up on these Mh370 threads going ham trying to discredit it. And look, I understand it's crazy, the idea that these orbs teleported a plane away. But I mean, if you agree that the UFO phenomenon is real, then like, you know, I feel like this is how people go down the rabbit holes and can end up crazy, because once you realize that reality isn't exactly what you've been told, it's like, okay, what else isn't? And I'm just going to put this up here and I'm going to just read through that one more time. This is going to play on a loop. By our analysis, the physics involved suggests a theoretical possibility of large-scale field displacement. The arrays detected what we called quantum field bubbles around these objects. So these objects are able to, and look, I'm not a fucking scientist, okay? So if someone thinks I'm interpreting this wrong, let me know in the comments, but this is what it sounds like to me, that these objects, these orbs, are capable of generating large-scale field displacement or quantum field bubbles, as this person claims, around objects. So zones where conventional physics temporarily cease to function. Is this video playing properly? I think it is. Or maybe not, but okay, you can still see it. The quantum acoustic signatures we measured during actual aircraft encounters showed momentary phase matching between the object and the aircraft's magnetic profiles. Theoretically, this mechanism could create a mobile threshold point, treating it as an emergence event in reverse. Is that what this is? Because the plane's not emerging, it's doing the opposite. It's going in reverse. It's disappearing. And there are these orbs creating this. Dude, look, I don't know if someone's already seen this and connected these dots, but this is kind of wild, right? This was not a part of the show, and I'm a little bit shook right now. But yeah, this is very interesting. I think this deserves more of its own show. Yeah. I'm going to move on because I feel like if I keep going, I'm just going to get really rattled and sidetracked. So yeah, that's a little unexpected weave that we did. I hope you guys like that because that's kind of mind-blowing. Next one. The temporal inversion data was just one theory explored to explain their systematic survey patterns. The millisecond precursor signals we detected before emergence events suggested possible temporal effects, but again, this is just a theory. Also, the focus isn't exclusively on America. That's absolute drivel from the mainstream media, social media, and Reddit people want you that Reddit people want you to believe. Civilians see these objects everywhere. Don't get fooled. Anon. Anon is just the way people call each other anonymous on this forum. Research public data, you'll quickly see that I'm correct. There's multiple countries researching this. US, Russia, China, India's been quietly monitoring activity in the Indian Ocean, and several European nations have deep water monitoring programs tracking the same phenomena. Most militaries have shitloads of recorded interactions with them. Cattle mutilations. These objects were detected moving inland from emergence points, and yes, many of those times to rural and agricultural areas. There's a possibility they could be involved with cattle mutilation, but I personally don't have any data on that specifically. 2027. Obviously, that's the date that gets thrown around as like a big event happening. As for 2027, look, people love to pick significant dates. The exponential increase in emergence events we tracked through 2023 was already beyond our worst case projections. For all I know, this could be the year they finally decide to go one step beyond observation and mapping. Don't buy into people pointing out specific dates. Nobody knows. That's why our government is scared and isn't sure how to proceed from where we currently are. These things operate on their own timeline. Very interesting. It's basically saying like, you know, whatever's happening is happening and we can't do anything about it. He says, I'll give this thread another 2 or 3 hours, then I'll be off. But we don't have many more slides to go through, and then we'll look through the footage. If they wanted to eliminate humanity, they absolutely could. And with relatively little effort based on what we observed, consider the capabilities that we tracked. Perfect electromagnetic field manipulation, physics-defying movement, and structural transformation. Something that can alter matter at that level and move through any medium without resistance. They could probably take out every major population center globally within 24 hours. We'd have to nuke ourselves and commit to some sort of collective suicide to fight back. That is wild. Actually, something interesting started happening in late 2022. Their mimicry began showing noticeable flaws. The way they handle light and shadows is increasingly wrong. They fail to align with prevailing ambient light conditions, often appearing distorted or inconsistent with the unexpected behavior of physical objects. Their use of FAA-mandated lighting frequently fails too. We've tracked instances where strobes were blinking too quickly, too slowly, or even in non-standard colors. It's like they're getting sloppy. Very interesting. The footage is absolutely genuine. Okay, so we've got something else to look at here. The footage he's referring to is the Aguadilla UFO footage from 2013. And of course, I've got it for you. Of course, I've got it for you. I'm not going to just throw that out there and make you go find it yourself. I've got it. We're going to take a look at it quickly. It's about a 3.5 minute video. I'm just going to play like a little bit to give you guys an idea. It's just like another infrared video. Does have something interesting going on though, and I'm going to put the full video in my Discord. So if you're not in the Polarity Discord yet, make sure you join. It's open to everybody. Get involved with the conversation. Be a weirdo. Be your most authentic self. It's all good there. And our Polarity members, they get their own little designated channel to themselves if they want to. So let's check this out. This is the Aguadilla UFO from 2013. Oh, and here's a little map to show you. There's no sound in this video, so, we can kind of chat. So like I was saying, this is on the complete other side of the United States to what we just saw earlier with Baja, California. And this is, you could kind of say, the southern tip of the Bermuda Triangle. The same place that we see, well, the same place that the old whistleblower said is where a large mobile construction facility exists that these things seem to go in and out of. So you can see this video is just very similar to like the FLIR and a lot of those things, but I'm just going to skip to about here because this is where it looks like it's going in the water and out the water there. There has been, so this is over the water, obviously, because I just said that. But the reason why I bring that up is because there has been speculation that given that this is like an infrared radar system or sensor system, that it may not actually be going in and out the water like it looks, but it's actually changing its temperature and that it's going from hot to cold, because obviously that's going to show either white or black. And when it's going cold or hot, whatever one matches the ocean is when it looks like it's going in, but it actually isn't. I think there's a bit of speculation there. And then obviously, as you just saw, it splits into two, which is something that we have seen in lots of UAP videos that have come out recently, especially over New Jersey, and kind of like what we're going to look at a little bit later at the end of the video too. So, I just wanted to weave that in there, but if you want to check out the full thing, go make sure you join the Discord. There'll be a link in the description. So let's continue on. The splitting behavior is particularly fascinating because it may relate to those temporal inversions I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned before, our quantum arrays would sometimes detect an object's signature milliseconds before it physically appeared. In cases of apparent splitting, we'd see overlapping temporal signatures as if the same object was briefly existing at multiple points in its own timeline. This could explain what we're seeing here, not necessarily an object dividing, but potentially intersecting with itself across microsecond temporal variations. So temporal is just another term for like time, if you don't know, like that's kind of what he's referring to there. As for the visibility itself, they don't go invisible in the traditional sense. Rather, they can manipulate electromagnetic fields to either mimic other objects or move at speeds, frequencies that make them effectively undetectable to conventional systems. In the Aguadilla case, we're likely seeing them in a transitional state, where they're not actively mimicking anything or manipulating fields for concealment. I respect Jacques Vallée's work. I think his trickster theory and observational data aren't necessarily in conflict. Our arrays would detect subtle variations in their electromagnetic signatures when they knew they were being observed. Almost like they were responding to monitoring. Not quite Vallée's cosmic theater, but definitely a level of awareness and reaction to being watched. The recent decline in mimicry quality could actually support both perspectives. From our military viewpoint, it suggested operational priorities shifting away from perfect concealment, but viewed through Vallée's lens, These mistakes could be deliberately theatrical. They're clearly advanced enough to hide perfectly when they want to, so when they don't, is it really a mistake? Very interesting. YouTube and Reddit, sorry I know, are a goldmine. I think he's talking... the question here was, is there real footage out there? And he said YouTube and Reddit are a goldmine, especially the really old stuff. If you know how to use search filters, so much has been deleted in the last few years. It's quite sad, actually. What were your thoughts on the Jake Barber interview? An absolute circus, as expected. They took a 15-second clip and made a huge piece that made the UFO community look like absolutely insane monkeys. Excuse me. Nobody even falls for this shit anymore. It's just time wasting. The video doesn't even belong to Jake. It's from an unverifiable source. Lol. Also, Jake is a damn liar. They displayed his documentation and destroyed his credibility. He never served for the AFSOC. He was an aerospace maintenance guy for his entire Air Force career, and his enlistment contract said Combat Controller Apprentice, which pretty much confirms that he never even completed CCT training. He's no expert, and the photos in the piece are staged. At this point, it feels like they're literally making fun of us and aren't even trying to be clever anymore. Ross is a clown. Okay, he went in there. He went in pretty hard. Again, he's contradicting himself in the way that in his approach to this, where he says he will only talk about what he knows. It's also compartmentalized. It's also locked down. Yet he seems to be pretty confident about someone he doesn't know and who he hasn't worked with. Now, I remember in the news report that Jake Barber said he was an aerospace maintenance mechanic, and he was, but that was like his cover, that was like his day job, and it is quite common in the military for the people who are doing these kind of special operations to have like no one's doing special operations all day. It's not a 9 to 5. That they have jobs, and when they're then pulled into these operations, they go and do that, and they tell people that they're going away for an aerospace maintenance job, when actually they're getting pulled onto a special mission, and they're going to track aliens or whatever. So, I don't like that this guy's attacking these people, because he's not bringing any of his own proof to the table, and that bothers me, and it just, again, muddies the water. And I don't like someone who's obviously pushing for disclosure having such a negative take on other people who are also pushing for disclosure. I'll get into it at the end. Or we'll go into that at the end, which I think this is the last slide, actually. I'm not going to confirm or deny things outside what I personally observed or heard through the program. I was very clear throughout this entire thread that I can only speak to what I'm 100% sure of, or at least theories and speculation grounded in what I know is real. Throughout my time in the program, I watched different branches fight over control of information, undermine each other's findings, and jealously guard their own data. The whole system is designed to keep people in their lanes. I could easily go on News Nation tomorrow, spin an elaborate tale about crash retrievals and alien bodies, maybe write a book and hit the convention circuit. Shitloads of people have made careers doing exactly that. Are there B aspects I wasn't privy to? Of course. Doesn't mean the disinfo agents aren't real, and I should take their claims into account. The manifesto from the Sean Ryan podcast is fake, and that whole story is a psyop. Claiming US and China are responsible behind the drone tech we're seeing is laughable. Watch for commercial aircraft where the shadows don't quite match the sun's position, or where the FAA strobes blink in odd patterns or the colors don't match. Pay attention to weather that doesn't move with prevailing winds, especially near power stations or military bases. The signatures we tracked showed they can maintain position regardless of atmospheric conditions, which sometimes creates these weird, stuck cloud formations. We're approaching a critical mass where their presence becomes impossible to conceal. When multiple threshold points activate simultaneously, it creates cascading electromagnetic effects that even civilian instruments can detect. The government will play a whack-a-mole with explanations based on the internal fights I witnessed. Nobody in charge has any idea how to handle what's coming. And I guess that's why they don't want to tell you, because what government or military wants to put their hands up and be like, yeah, we don't know how to handle this. We don't know what to do, and we can't stop it, but it's happening. I mean, that would cause chaos. And I think, yeah, a lot of what he says lines up with the terrible truth theory. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to just give you my proper conclusion on how I think about things now. So first of all, while I do this, I want to just chuck up our members. These are the beautiful weirdos who have gone the extra mile to support me and have become a member of the Polarity family. So you can do that as well. If you want to join, it's $5 a month. You get a whole bunch of extras and our own members only zone. So big thank you to these guys. I really appreciate the support. So I'm going to give you my conclusion, and then I'll let the video run out with the footage of the orbs transforming into drones. So I'm kind of reading from notes here. Again, the repeated pattern of trying to discredit people who are trying to create disclosure in the mainstream. I think due to the timing and due to the anonymous nature of these recent 4chan threads, that this could be a disinformation campaign to regain control of the narrative, or at least discredit the people who are trying to come out and vowing for transparency. Now, I could be totally wrong there. I'm very open to that. I'll never try and I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you what I think, and I encourage you to make up your own mind. And if you think something else, or if you agree with me, let me know in the comments. I think it's very possible that Jake Barber and this 4chan thread are true at the same time. And I feel like that's a really key thing that people need to understand. Like, your perspective of reality is so small. We're all individual humans who see a small slither of reality, but reality is so vast. So the truth from your perspective is true. You're telling your truth how you see it. But you need to be aware that someone else is also viewing reality from a complete other perspective, something that you might not even see or know. So when they tell you their truth, just because that's not how you see reality, that doesn't mean they're lying. They're just telling you a part of reality that you don't have the perspective on. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Now, obviously, you know, that's a pretty open, you have to have a pretty open mind to understand that concept. And these, you know, let's say this 4chan whistleblower is telling the truth. And I do think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. But I think it's a shame that, you know, the people in these positions, and they're obviously highly intelligent, they're very educated, they've probably worked hard to get into these roles, but that doesn't mean you have a very open mind. It doesn't mean you're like spiritual. It doesn't mean you have a broad perspective on human nature. And, you know, to be honest, when you join these sort of military installations, I feel like that stuff is probably beaten out of you. It's probably beaten out of you to have this sort of like all appreciating and like understanding perspective of all humans, right? Because I think two people can tell two different things and they're both true. I really do think that, but you have to have a broad perspective to really grasp that. So we got a little bit more here. I want to say, just to support what I just said, that we know that they do let bits of the truth out with a little bit of distortion and a little bit of false information to kind of muddy the waters, right? And that could, again, be what we're seeing here. He could be telling us a lot of truth about these orbs, and I really do think that there is a lot of truth there. Maybe they actually know more than they're telling us, and they're trying to discredit Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart to make sure, to make sure people still don't know who to believe. But I am willing to put a lot of everything that I own that Ross Coulthart is an honest guy. Because like I said, he's been an investigative journalist before UFOs. He's on TV all my life as a kid. He's like an Australian icon, a very well-respected, award-winning journalist who came onto the UFO story just through the course of his own investigation. And he says it is the biggest story he's ever had. Now, look, there's still the chance that he could be being led up the garden path and being given disinformation. But Ross is also a trained lawyer before he was an investigative journalist. So I think, you know, he is rigorous when trying to make sure his sources are true. He probably knows people are trying to feed him disinformation. And I think a guy with the experience of Ross, if he can't work it out, who's maybe doing what, then, you know, I think we're probably in trouble. There's probably not many other people who can then. So I think it's wrong to say that Ross is like a grifter or an idiot. He may be being led astray and he's got it wrong, but his intentions are pure, and I'd put my life on it. I would put my life on that. Ross's intentions are pure. And I'm curious, right? Like I said before, we're getting this guy who allegedly wants to get the truth out there, and from an anonymous source, he's giving us all this information. But why wouldn't, and fair enough, he might not have that broad perspective and he might not agree with Jake Barber, fair enough. But why wouldn't you be like, Jake Barber's done some great work. I think there were a couple of things in the news story that maybe they got wrong. Hopefully Jake comes out and clears that up soon. Here's how I understand it from my perspective. Here's how I understand what Jake said, which is a little bit different. But instead, we just get this like venomous assault on Jake and Ross's credibility. And to me, that just sets off like enormous red flags. Like, aren't you guys, you're on the same team, right? I don't know. That's just me personally. Let me know what you guys think. I think all of this 4chan drama over the last 4 days has been, well, it has possibly been a last-ditch attempt to keep control of the narrative, to keep muddying the waters, discredit the people who are speaking out, and just try to keep the grip on the control of the way this unfolds. But the good thing is, we're going to find out about Jake Barber because he's set up that Skywatcher team, and they're going to be, like Jake said, they have their own psionic assets. They have the people involved in the programs who are now not involved anymore with all the technology to track and record and show the proof. So, I would expect to be seeing some proof from Jake Barber within the next 2 months, honestly. And apparently the full 2.5 hour interview with him is going to be coming out soon. So there's going to be more developments very soon, possibly in the next few days about that. Now, as we saw, people were telling us about this stuff last year, if you were paying attention, right? People like Danny Sheehan, Tim Gallaudet, who's even saying it the year before. People have been telling us about these things coming out of the ocean. So this isn't new to 4chan right now. If you're new to this topic, which I know a lot of people might be from the drones, let me tell you, this has been going on for a long time. Now, I also made predictions, and I'll probably do this every year. At the end of the year, on my very last weird week of 2024, December week 4, I made predictions for what I thought will happen in 2025. And I covered everything. I didn't hold back. I tried to cover like UFOs, aliens, religion. Like I tried to cover everything, right? And I just thought, hey, I'll probably get some things wrong. I'm only human. But I just wanted to kind of just throw it out there, what I'm feeling. Like given everything, if I had to tell you how I feel, I just threw it out there as like a little time capsule. And at the end of this year, we're going to look back at it and do like a review and have a look if I was just completely off the mark or maybe if we got a couple of things right. But one thing that I did say is that I think in 2025, we're going to learn about the existence of an aquatic-based extraterrestrial race or life form. So go and check that out if you haven't already. It's a long one, so make sure you got a bit of spare time. But that's December Weird Week 2024, week 4. So that's it for the show, guys. Thank you again to all the members. Join the Discord if you haven't. It's open to everyone. And I'm going to leave you with these 3 videos of orbs transforming into drones in real time. Of course, it's not playing. We nearly got through the whole video. There we go.